Welcome to Albion TV presents the AO Daily Show, your source of real news in an unreal world, keeping you up to date on the latest news, events, and the great community of Albion Online. Today is Friday, the 19th of June, 2020, and I am your host, the Shozen One, and joining me today, as always, my co-host, Bogul.
Hello.
Now hi Bogul. I got to cut you off right away because we do not have a lot of time for any chatter. We have an interview today with Derrick, GM of Final Order, formerly of Money Guild, and it's long, and we got to get right to it. So we're going to do that right away, and then after the stream, we're going to go ahead and raid his channel where he will be doing some crystals. So without further ado, Bo, go ahead and play the interview.
There we go. Enjoy, everybody.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Albion TV interview series. Today, Bogul and I have the great honor of getting to interview Derrick, the GM of Final Order and the former GM of Money Guild. One of the greatest leaders that Albion has ever had, and currently probably the host of the best Twitch program we have, period. Derrick UK is one of the most informed streamers we currently have. I know that some of you guys out there don't know who I'm talking about. I know there's like 4 of you out of the horde that are watching. But for those 4, Derrick, would you do us the honor of maybe giving us an introduction into who you are and where you came from in this great game of Albion?
Absolutely, sure. So welcome to Blue Army TV, your source of squad propaganda. I'm going to be the guest today. So I started playing Albion like a very long time ago. I joined at the very tail end of the alpha and beta 1. I actually had a small guild with my real life friends, and we joined Money Guild from there. We actually we were playing in the yellow zone, and Money Guild was also playing in the yellow zone, and we ended up melting together. And then over the course of the beta, we progressed pretty quickly into the black zone, and we ended up having a lot of fun open world content, a lot of GVG content, and it just kind of spiraled from there. Made a lot of friends in beta 1. You might know King Mojo, Emi Ashiro.
Mm-hmm.
I would say at one point, King Mojo, Shiro, and myself, we were probably the holy trinity of Albion, and we played together in the same guild. So I mean, that's kind of it.
Well,
like we all came up together.
I remember those days watching the 3 of you play, and I got to actually have an interview with the 3 of you and played on the final week of beta with the 3 of you and waited as well in our group. And I don't think I've ever had a more entertaining experience than being in a group with the 4 of you. It was absolutely amazing.
I can see that. I mean, we're all very different people, and we're all super entertaining in our own ways. You pull it all together, and then it could be a bit of a shit show. Like there's me and Shiro are a little bit more hot-headed, whereas Mojo's a bit more calmer. But like ultimately, I think we're all kind of fun guys.
Absolutely, yeah. You guys put on a lot of great shows, and I mean, it did have like this explosive like split, but the events that occurred from that have been some of the absolutely most memorable events that this game has ever seen, period, hands down. When you and Mojo met on that bridge during one of the very first invasions, and you're both like swinging at each other with like ironclads as your armies like meet up behind you, and everybody's kind of just circled back just a little bit so they can all watch this thing as 2 icons from the game are fighting each other over Mercia. And it was just those kind of events you don't really see in other games. And it's partially because of the relationship you guys had early on in the formation of Money Guild, as you guys went from like, it was Envy, Red Army, Money Guild, all merged together for the Money Guild that was Release. And I don't think we've ever had a guild that was as strong and just like completely took over everything like Money Guild did during those early days after Release.
I would agree with that. I really think that I would say it may have been short-lived, but I don't think there's ever been a guild as dominant as what Money Guild was on the first month or 2 of Release. Like we had the best GVGers. Our ZVZ was fine. I'm not really like a ZVZ person, but we did have ZVZ focused people in the guild. Or ZVZ was good, or open world was good. Obviously, within the alliance, we had a lot of ZVZ people.
Mm-hmm.
V1, like we had a lot of good, Machete Bandit, for example, and like a lot of people know him. Well, probably less so now, but a lot of the veterans will know who Machete Bandit is. Like Money Guild and Tea Party, we actually had a very long relationship, stemming back into the betas and stuff. But like, yeah, I would say Money Guild was the most dominant guild, like even from an economy perspective, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
no, absolutely. That early economy, it launched out so far ahead of everybody else. I wish you could go into that a little bit more, because I don't think that many people know about the job that Kostin did with the economy early on, and how quickly you guys were able to build up that home plot to a T8 home plot, really work it more than anybody else did. And from there, that was really what allowed you guys to become incredibly successful early on. Your early fights, you were fighting people with gear sets that outmatched them by 3 or 4 tiers.
I'm not sure if that's necessarily true or not. I mean, to some extent, obviously it is, because we had the first fully tier 8 bout home plot. I think it was more than a month before anybody else. And that's obviously a big advantage at the beginning of the game. We managed to clear out the black market. The black market, all the tier 8 items were unattainable for most players, so the price was way up there. We made a lot of money very early on. Something that I actually didn't really delve into very much was the stores and stuff in Kaleon, or actually being a city owner, like actually owning Kaleon or whatever. So I think we could have done a lot more than what we actually did in hindsight, looking back now. But our economy was very healthy. We were definitely way up there. And people still say to me to this day that I must have unlimited wealth because of how strong of a start that we had. I wish it was true. I wish I could turn around and say, yeah, you're right. Like, I could insets all fucking day. I can't, unfortunately. I kind of covered it before we actually started the interview, where even when Money Guild back in the day was against the ropes, we kept fighting, Like, we were very dominant early, but we faced a lot of challenges. Like when we were losing ZVZs, we kept coming. When we were losing GVGs, we kept coming. And I don't think any other guild can honestly say the same. A lot of guilds relocated, a lot of guilds changed where they were, a lot of guilds kind of walked away from their conflicts, whereas we kind of kept almost all of them, if not all of them, going for as long as it's possible.
No, that's absolutely true. One of my favorite events in Albion's history is an event that lasted 13 weeks as you guys fought against a home plot of Familia. And you guys showed up every day, win or lose the day before, and kept going at it and going at it and going at it. And I've never seen anything like that since. And it's like I still look at it fondly, and I miss those other players that you fought against because of how resilient they were with you and how resilient you were with them. And that 3-month period, I really gained a lot of respect for all the people involved. And it's incredible how much effort goes into that kind of prolonged siege. And you guys have done that not just with that 13 weeks, but pretty much every week since. Because as far as I can tell, since Queen has started, you guys have been on the back foot trying to break in. And every time you guys break in, it's overwhelming odds against you come crashing down. And there's just some battles you can't win. And yet you still fight against them and come back over and over and over into those ZVZs. And I find that is as impressive as anything else in this game.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would agree with that. Like, within the confines of Queen, obviously you don't get the city plot attacks, etc., the same way that you did back then. The 5v5s where the defenders get the 5% advantage or whatever, which were very difficult, and we spent a hell of a lot of money on that. But yeah, we always try and fight no matter what. It's actually, I would say it's one of my weaknesses, actually, where no matter what the odds are, I just try and go for it, I got a lot of respect for my players. Like, obviously, I'm a hothead. I get upset a lot. But at the end of the day, my guys that choose to be here, there's some, I mean, they're some of the most resilient motherfuckers ever. Like, honestly, there's so many guilds to choose from. but a final order member chooses to be here, and they choose to fight 80 versus 200, 300, 400 every single fucking day. And we don't have a re-gear system because we don't have any mandatory taxes. We don't have any mandatory donations. We expect everyone within the guild to be self-sufficient. And our average IP, despite dying over and over again, is still amongst the highest, if not the highest, in the game. So I got a lot of respect for my guys, even if I don't always show it sometimes. Obviously, there's a lot of famous clips of me getting angry and stuff out there, and I'm sure a lot of other leaders get pissed off too. But honestly, I have so much fucking respect for my boys, man. I can't even begin to explain it.
Well, I got to confirm one thing on there. You definitely were running the Gucci gear today with the 8-3 Judicator. Excellent. Not bad for showing up for a ZVZ.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, you're right. Normally, we try and be a little bit more economically practical. You know, normally myself, I just kind of run like probably about like 1.5 mil silver set because, you know, we die a lot. You can't run around ending 8.3 every day. But yeah, today it was our last shield. So, okay. So today we fought an Everwinter Expanse and we lost another hideout. We lost another hideout to Blue Army.
Mm-hmm.
So, BTW. But so the way that played out was that we, you know, we came. We had some help. We have some friends. Don't get me wrong. Okay, we had Violets. I believe Avium were there. We had Mugiwara. I don't know how you say that entire name.
Yeah,
because
who knows?
Yeah, no one speaks that language. And we had Blame Devs also, who are some Polish friends of ours, but they did like a lot of, none of these guilds really had many. I think Violets and Avium had a decent amount, but for the most part they also had their own fight one map over.
Well, this is partially because the Polish hand-holding alliance recently broke up just like 2 days ago, right? And those guys were mostly grouped with you against the I would say they had the same agenda, at least, of keeping squad out, if you will. And until a couple of days ago, you guys had a very significant force. But yeah, today it was much less. You guys were outnumbered significantly with all the forces that BA was bringing, with Tidal and everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Northern Alliance with Violets, etc., their non-aggression pact with all their Polish friends or whatever, it fell apart. I don't know the full details. I don't really know who's in the wrong there. So like, even though the other guys are fighting against us, all of a sudden, there must be a reason for that I'm not privy to. So I'm not gonna blame them. I'm not gonna blame those guys. It is what it is. I'm sure it's some beef with Violets. They must have fallen out. Yeah, I mean, it
happens. Yeah, you never know. These guys have been together for a long time, so when you're always fighting against the same thing and then things kind of change against you, because I feel like the Violets in the northern group there were able to hold it for a very long time. And then when this thing kind of happened, where you have the combination of the coalition dragging people to the south, the push up from Squawk to put pressure on you guys. Now, I don't know if that's to alleviate pressure on Poe. I'm not going to touch that one. But for whatever reason, they've decided to come up and put pressure on you. I feel like that put additional strain on that Polish group because they were seeing forces that they weren't used to fighting against on a regular basis, and it changed the dynamic. And whenever a dynamic changes, you never know what's going to happen as far as the group structure. And we saw the Provocatia, that great clap guild, they dropped out, and now they refuse to pick any sides, and they're just going around clapping CIR for fun.
Clap does today, so I don't know if they were on the other side or not, but they definitely clapped my boys. But, yeah.
I'm sorry, man. They're a great clap guild.
Yeah, I mean, Provocatia, very good for sure. Yeah. So like, we definitely have some issues with that. I think like one of the main issues with the Violets NAP or whatever, you know, so whatever they want to call themselves now, right? Obviously they're not with Violets anymore, but you have to remember that their main enemy prior to Surf and Squad attacking us up in North was Final Order, was, you know, like me, Kazara, the rest of our guild, like they were essentially fighting us as a solo entity. From time to time we did have help, but it wasn't really consistent help, to be honest. One Punch Man helped us some, Talion helped us some, Zorn helped us some, there was a period where Sancta Inquisitinho and Target helped us, but then they started helping the other side because there was some miscommunication there. A lot of different things went on, but they were never fighting against the odds. They were always fighting with the odds in their favor.
Right. They always had numbers on their side, I always felt like. And now, for the first time, it looks like, yeah, it went the other way.
Absolutely. So I don't want to say that they kind of dropped out because they were fighting an uphill battle for the first time in however long, if maybe might have even been the first time. But that's kind of what it looks like, to be honest.
As an outside viewer, that's what I was seeing, and I'm a fan of like the whole Polish hand-holding group. I think that what they did was really cool. I enjoyed watching them fight against you. I've enjoyed watching them fighting against each other as they were initially formed. That's always been a good spot for action. And you're right. I feel like this is the first time where they've had to go up against overwhelming numbers. And the first thing they did was go, how can we lower our aggressional image? How do we make ourselves look less dangerous to the groups coming in? And the first thing they did was they split apart. And now you see them fighting on all three sides of this war. And I mean, there's four sides, I guess. I'm going to be honest. I keep sticking squad in with the Poe because I feel like that the groups that are fighting against Poe are also fighting against squad. And what we're not seeing is squad fight against Poe. And so just by the elimination of enemies and my enemy's enemy is my friend kind of situation, those guys are kind of working together. And it does put a lot of pressure on the other groups to either join up against Poe or get behind the squawk, if you will.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know.
You can disagree with that. I hope you do. If you have a different opinion from somebody inside the fight, like that's what it looks like to me on the outside. I would love to hear what it looks like to you on the inside, somebody who's fighting against those guys.
I don't know. It's kind of difficult to say like one way or the other. Yeah, I really don't know. I don't want to sit here and like do a load of propaganda, So it's like you kind of touched on it in regards to like squad like pressuring us in the north to protect themselves, protect PoE in the south,
Mm-hmm.
But even with us uninvolved, PoE are still losing.
It's true. They are. I've been shocked by how effective these other teams are. Like Elevate has been incredibly effective at drawing a coalition together. It's been, in the short period it's been together, it's been very, very effective pushing on PoE and taking territories. Do you think that they're going to be successful going through? I mean, you get to fight against these guys on the regular basis. Do you feel like they're strong enough to take down PoE?
I think it's... So since Elevate was formed, everyone knew that Elevate was either going to be the strongest guild in the game or it would run into some drama and fall apart quickly. All right. Now, currently, it's safe to say that they're the strongest guild in the game. They have a lot of good GVGers. They hold all of the cities. They're really good in CGVG, and their ZVZ is undoubtedly the best as an individual guild.
Absolutely.
However, the potential for drama is always there. In every guild, but in Elevate even more so. And that isn't an Elevate exclusive problem, as I just said. It also extends to our quote-unquote coalition, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
The drama from any guild on any day, at any time, anyone can split off, anyone can join the other side. It's too hard to predict whether this current 2.0 Revenge of the E-Daters coalition can actually win against PoE, because PoE in itself is a quote-unquote real alliance.
Yeah,
These guilds have ties together. They're not going to break up. There's not going to be dumb drama within, I imagine. So they have that going for them. Even if they're weaker as players, I imagine they're more resilient than this coalition would be. If PoE start clapping back, I could honestly see things falling apart fairly quickly. But this is coming from someone that, whilst being a part of that anti-PoE coalition on some level, I'm not really fully involved. I'm not down there fighting with these guys. I don't make the plans with these guys. I don't really talk to these guys that much, right? I'm just on good terms with these dudes. So I don't know the inner workings of how things are. Like, I don't know their relationships. I just know that there's a lot of volatile characters involved.
Yeah, it does seem like you hit the nail on the head. It's they have a lot of great players, but they have a capacity for more drama than some of the other longer lasting guilds that have already dealt with that. And that's honestly, drama is something that all guilds have to get through at some point, and it's how they deal with that drama and become stronger that really leads to the the resilient guilds that last a long time. And yeah, Poe is full of those. CIR has gone through a lot and is stronger than it's probably maybe the second strongest that it's ever been, I would say. Maybe during the Rent period, it was maybe a little bit stronger. They held 2 full continents. Hammer and Sickle, incredibly strong. You've worked with them in the past. You know, those guys are just a bunch of bangers. They're really good at what they do. It seems like they're low drama. They have been together forever, and I have not seen... The most drama I've seen them get into is moving from a CIR-led alliance to a Money Guild-led alliance back to a CIR-led alliance. That's the most I've seen, and I don't think they lost any members during that.
So what I would say in regards to PoE and their current strength is it's kind of hard to gauge, honestly, because that quote unquote win against Squad that they had, sure it was a win, but did Squad fight back?
No.
So how strong really is PoE? They fought against an alliance that wanted to die. And the only reason that PoE is a thing, again, also, I mean, PoE would have been a thing again, regardless, okay?
Right.
But, again, PoE gained a lot of strength because it got a lot of its old members back because I didn't want to continue leading an alliance at that point. Yeah? So with Syndic coming back, me wanting to disband Oops, it was a no-brainer for these skills. So they went back to PoE. And I'm sure they're loyal in PoE. Don't get me wrong. These guys are very loyal people. But again, just the strength is just unknown because they've never had a real challenge, to be honest. Because it's very clear that Mojo and Syndic, despite PoE just having killed Squad, have a very good working relationship.
Yeah, I can't deny that. It from the outside, it looks like it. I've heard it denied by both sides, as I've tried to talk to both of them about it. But the evidence is there. And if the audience believes it, like if the people watching the actions happen kind of believe it, does it matter if it's true or not, if that's what the results are?
Either way, whether people believe it or not, it is true. Like, you know, it's not a rumor. It's blatant. It's there in black and white. They share multiple group chats together, multiple Discord servers. They actively work together every day. They share guilds that they work with, for one. That's I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of screenshots that came out today that I'm assuming you guys saw. So, I mean, yeah, it's just a fact, isn't it? I mean, like, you can't say for 100% certainty, but I mean, it's pretty clear. And there was a lot of rumors that went around about, you know, Mojo and Syndic just kind of having a lot of deals. Like when they were originally fighting before, was more of a mutually beneficial thing, you know, in regards to quote unquote content. They were never really going for each other's throat at any point.
I've heard that 100%. I heard that they had scheduled fights prepared that the upper leadership knew about, whereas the regular men were completely unaware and just thought they were going to fight, whereas no actual tactical targets were in play.
Let's be honest, okay? With the way that the game is, the way that this game is set up, ZVZs happen every day, and you don't have one side consistently winning and then not taking the enemy's hideouts, unless there's no real beef there.
Right.
And generally speaking, if there's 2 mega alliances, one of them is going to be stronger than the other. You're not going to be in a situation where they trade wins day in and day out. It doesn't happen, realistically. If you're the stronger alliance on paper, and you're losing fights, it's mismanaged. So one side should essentially win say 80% of the time, because it's not like they're going to be evenly matched, right? It's obvious. Why would they be evenly matched? You don't. It's like alliance leaders don't go, hey, so I'm going to make an alliance today, and I noticed that squad has X amount of players, X amount of veterans. They bring this amount of IP. They have this many guilds. They have this many vocal people, experienced shot callers, etc. So I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna make the same. That's not how alliances are formed. One is always stronger than the other. It's without a doubt. So the PoE/squad war, the initial one, I mean, prior to them on that, was bullshit. And then essentially Syndic did a snake in the grass move where he went full in on squad when squad was in the process of like disbanding / Mojo was playing other games, etc.
Yep.
But how much was that only on Syndic? Maybe Mojo was in on it. You never know. It's hard to tell. It's like Blue Army didn't fight them.
That's true. The evidence was that Blue Army just did not choose to fight them, and no matter how much the people on the ground said, "Hey, why aren't we fighting these guys? Why aren't we going to do something?" There was no push to get content going, and yeah, I think that's led to what we have now with the second weakest BA has ever been. I mean, the only time it was weaker was 3 weeks ago when it was dead. So. Without friends right now, BA is in a really bad spot. They really wanted to go full solo guild on this, and I just don't think it's gonna. They got some work to do. They lost a lot of shot callers, and now they're everywhere else. And I hear they're getting some of them back just because activity will bring back good players. But I feel like they have a lot of work to do to convince their members that they're not working with Poe, and that. I don't know. I just don't see them regaining any real position of power until they can prove that. Because
I don't. Sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't think they need to prove anything to their members. I think if you're in a guild, you're in a guild for the most part. It's very uncommon that people leave guilds based on the decision that the leaders make, because they're against it. I feel like a lot of members go along with things begrudgingly. They might not be happy. But you're in a guild for the people there, right? You're in a guild, your homies are there, your friends are there, the people that you enjoy fighting with are there. And the leaders would need to do something ridiculous to have like a mass exodus.
Well, let me rephrase that. So it's not that they're leaving Blue Army, they're leaving the game. And then when BA starts to do the things they like again, they tend to come back in droves. Like you see it with their shot callers, and I'll just use their shot callers as an example. During the height of the season, they had 12 shot callers. They went down to 3. Now they're back up to 7 again. And that is because, now they're trying to do the things they used to do again. But you still see a bunch of them are still gone. They're over there in Savage. There's people who are just taking huge breaks, paying attention to the game every day, but not participating in the events because I don't think they, some people just don't like the current political situation that their team is in. Not worth fighting and showing up to CTAs.
Sure, I can agree with that. And in regards to Blue Army, like regaining power and being a solo guild, etc. I mean, obviously they're not a solo guild. I think they attempted to be a solo guild for a couple of days. They realized that there was no way in hell that they could do it while still maintaining activity, etc., and enjoyment. Because Blue Army is historically one of the guilds that they kind of exist for diplomacy, I suppose. Leadership, not the best players, not really the best anything. There's really good snakes though. They're really good at fighting DMs. So outside of that, Blue Army doesn't really have a whole lot of strengths to play on. So they make it fun there because it's fun to win. Okay, and it's very easy to win when you pull 1,000+ people to fight against essentially one guild almost. So that's kind of been their playbook for a very long time, and I mean they've been doing that for the last however knows how long already. So they started the season solo, and then quickly they were very much back into doing the squad thing. I mean, Mojo does his streams, and he's literally streaming TeamSpeak, telling Guild X, Guild Y, Guild Z to zone in. Like, that's not the actions of a solo guild?
No, I would say that is his strength. Mojo's strength is his ability in diplomacy to talk to other guild leaders. Like you brought up a good point. Like Blue Army has always been considered a very strong guild. But when you look at when they had their top strength, it was always because they had an incredibly powerful alliance full of what was often the, like, 4 of the top 10 guilds in the game. Like, I don't want to say they were the top just because they had 1 through 5, because when you get that high level of group together in one alliance, it does kind of push everybody up, and it elevates them up to that kind of position. Whereas I don't think that a lot of the guilds in there were necessarily as high, were as good as their rank was, for example. But yeah, being able to do that politically has always made them stronger. And yeah, you're other than a very specific time where they were the dominant city controlling guild, I don't think as an individual guild they've, always been the most powerful. And it's often that alliance that they create around them that is what drives the overarching power of that group.
For sure. I mean, a lot of ZVZ comes down to psychology, I suppose, right? So it's like Blue Army zones in. Just use this as an example. Blue Army zones in. I think, okay, can I 1v1 Blue Army? On a good day, yeah, I can. Should I take this fight right now, 1v1? The answer is almost always no, because they're not alone. They're not alone. Mm-hmm. And then, so you run from the fight, and you'll lose some men. They'll probably get caught or whatever if you decide to leave a little bit too late. And then you look weak. Blue Army looks strong. But were you really scared of Blue Army? And the answer is no. You were afraid of the fact that they have 200 fucking people coming behind them.
No, numbers are real in this game. N+1 is freaking real. It is the number one determining factor in who wins a fight.
And it's okay too. People can play however they want, but even at Blue Army's height, it was still the same thing. It's a psychological thing. It's like, when you're fighting Blue Army, that you're in a time limit, or you're fighting any quote-unquote squad guild, you're in a time limit, because they're rotating, know they're coming, there's more people. I mean, I was sitting defending my territory the other day against Autumn dos Assassinos and fucking Savage, okay? And you probably think, who the hell are those guys, right?
I love Savage, man.
So fighting Savage and Autumn dos Assassinos, and I'm just sitting there, we're just defending the tower, and I'm just sitting there spamming and say chat, yo, Sarge. Ex-Sarge, one of Blue Army's old shot callers, and that calls for Savage. I was like, yo, just bring the 200 already, man, I'm bored. 90 seconds later, tier 5 blob zones in from the southeast. It's just, they're so predictable in what they do, but the predictability, it's not a weakness, it's a strength for them, because when you know that they're bringing that many, but you don't have those numbers yourself to really counteract it with, what choice do you have? The only choice is you try and fight heavily outnumbered, or you don't do anything at all. Numbers are a huge determining factor, but how many people are enjoying the game off the back of this? Sure, it's fun to win, but at what cost? At what cost are you winning? When you have to literally handhold with every single guild around you, it's kind of whack. And I feel like Blue Army in itself has taken a lot of fun out of the game, not necessarily for me, but for other people. And I think that the way that they play is not really in line with the way that it should be played. So and this isn't exclusive to Blue Army either by any means, but there's a lot of entities that they work together to do objectives together, and then they fight each other afterwards for content. Okay, so what that essentially does is it forces other guilds, other entities into a position where they can't do anything other than fight heavily outnumbered. And this, again, comes back down to diplomacy. But,
do you think the Roads of Avalon will change that?
That's not something that I've 100% entirely looked into, but no, I don't think so.
I gotta agree with Derrick on this one, I think that will be good for the small tier guilds, but the people who are getting beaten in this current meta phase, in this current system we have with the mega alliances and the ability to use cluster Q in such a way, it really, there's no place for a guild with 300 people in the Roads of Avalon from what I can see. You can't move people in and out effectively to the same spots to have content. The problem is that with 150 people even showing up to your ZVZ CTAs now, the fact that you're fighting against a group that is 400 or 500 strong, and the way that the mechanics work with the queue is it's just you can't fight that. And yes, you want to fight that because you want to have that kind of content. You want to fight with your full guild. But unless you call 4 other guilds over yourself, at which point it's going to be an escalation of war of who can get the most dudes, you're going to be fighting at a disadvantage.
Is there a solution to that problem then from your side or your point of view, Derrick? Do you have, where would you be like, all right, let's change 1, 2, 3 and that will fix it? Or is that also something where you go like,
Can I just finish the original point that I was making
absolutely.
before?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so when I'm talking about they're not playing the game in the way that it's supposed to be played, and again, this comes down to like diplomacy, and people can play whoever they want because it's a sandbox, right? But so essentially what happens, right? So today, as an example, again, so I'll just use this as an example because it's fresh in my mind, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the Fortini Alliance shows up, I think there was a 7 Alliance, there was obviously Armor, which is squad / army, there was Fortini Alliance, did I say them already? Yeah, I did, I said them already, but Lions Alliance showed up, there was a bunch of different alliances showed up that amounted to over 1,000 people, and they were on the same side, okay? They have 1,000 guys, what we're going to do is we're going to no-show, and then what us no-showing would do is, yeah, we would lose our hideout, they would gain their objective, but they wouldn't have gotten content off the back of it. However, if we no-showed, they would have just fought amongst each other for quote-unquote content, right? So they would have still gotten a fight, and they would have still gotten their objective, and the smaller party would have still gotten cut. And this is an arrangement that a lot of different people have within the game right now, and that's really holding like smaller entities from being able to do anything at all. So there's like diplomacy, but then it's like it's not even diplomatic at that point because it's either you suck or you get fucked by it. There's no choice. That's not diplomacy.
Yeah, it's either bend the knee or die right now. There's not a lot of options for a lot of players because bringing more people is such an advantage. It's more of an advantage than it should be right now, and it's a rough situation.
I don't really agree because I feel like greater numbers should always win in a situation where the lesser numbered party isn't significantly better. Now, I would say the army on a normal day is a stronger ZVZ guild in Final Order currently. We can win on a good day, but only in a good day. Okay, so that's me being completely fair, transparent, honest, hands up in the air. So when Blue Army come with 900 other people, I should lose by default. I should just lose.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I don't think that's wrong. I don't think that's wrong at all. Actually, I think obviously numbers should win, especially when they're just as good as we are for the most part. We have an entity within them that's just as good as we are. But the problem still comes from there's almost no solution to this. You know, it's like, so I wouldn't want to work with someone like Domnit because, you know, he's the leader of Surf. I wouldn't want to work with someone like Domnit simply because he's a snake. You know, he is a snake. And I only want to work with people that are honest and don't betray people. Yeah?
Do you have any of those?
I have 1 or 2 around, but they're not that strong. You know, like it's hard to find strong, honest, trustworthy allies. And that's the main issue, right? It's essentially you need to throw your morals aside to survive. And that's kind of the point that I'm making. It's like, so Domnit, completely untrustworthy, but, you know, Squad, as an example, will work with him just to cuck us, right? Even if they don't want to. So then you have someone that's of equal size, if not larger, working with another entity that's significantly larger, whilst not liking each other, just to cuck us, just because, essentially, right? So obviously Mojo and myself have beef. Domnit and I don't really have beef, you know? I haven't really done shit to him. I've actually helped him in the past. I saved his last shield hideout against Crimson Imperium Reborn several months ago. I had 100 deaths in that fight. I lost a command mammoth, and I never asked anything in return. Yeah, now here we are, because, I mean, I got involved in some fights on the... So, I mean, sure, I definitely started to pot some, but we don't have severe beef by any means. Right? But what's happened is, because Mojo's approached them or whatever, or maybe he approached Mojo, now they band together to do... And both entities already severely outnumber us to begin with. But now they band together just to take our stuff, and that's okay. But I can take it. I can take it. You guys have seen me lose time and time again and bounce back. But in the grand scheme of things, what's happening to all these guilds that are getting fucking bullied out and they can't take it? They can't take losing. They can't bounce back. I know the elitists are going to say, well, fuck them, like whatever. Let them die. But what's going to happen to our game at that point?
No, I hear you on that one, because I feel the inability for a single guild to be able to compete in the Black Zone is rough. And that's where I'm hoping the Roads of Avalon do give some kind of level of gameplay to people. But I look at the idea of a guild that's full, like, 300, 275, anywhere in that area, that is bringing 75 to 150 people to an event, and they want to compete. I feel like that's a hard area to compete in right now. And the current world that we're watching makes that probably the hardest area to compete in, unless you're completely willing to bend the knee to somebody else and become subservient at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you essentially have to become a slave of one of these larger entities if you want to do anything, which on some level makes a lot of sense. But then on the other hand, it's... I don't know, I just feel like there's not enough areas in the game for these smaller guilds to really thrive in. I hear a lot of complaints that the map's too big, but then at the same time, you have some of the strongest guilds in the game holding the very worst maps in the game.
Yeah, just to hold them and for position.
Yeah, essentially, yeah, just to have them. Or they're part of a larger alliance, so they get... Yeah, I don't know, they just hold this kind of stuff just to hold it. Or the larger guild is in control of it, but they hand it off to the weaker guild as a sweetener to be their slaves or to do their bidding.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, like there's a lot of, hey, we will protect you if you come join us. Okay, but what if I don't want to come join you? Well, we're going to destroy you. And
we'll protect you if you come join us, or if you pay us, we'll protect you. There's just a lot of,
It's strong arming, and it might feel okay for a little while, but that kind of over a while, I can't imagine what kind of effect that has to have on you psychologically in the video game you play. But I want to switch gears a little bit to something that happened earlier today, because I was watching a 5-man squad group defending your old hideout, well, your old territory, your T8 territory, and they were healing the mage and holding back your entire guild for what seemed like quite a while. I wanted to get your thoughts on that as somebody who's probably experienced both sides of that really well-leveled tower, and what your feelings are on the current balance of those towers.
I feel like territories in themselves... Now, this isn't answering the question directly. I'll get to it in a second. I just want to preface it with that. I feel like territories in themselves are not good. Okay, so territories in themselves are really not good right now. Essentially what they do is they cock block people from attacking your hideout, and they provide an additional pseudo-safe zone within a tile. It's not strictly super safe because it can be dove, but yeah. So I feel like territories overall, they need to have a little bit more value to them, because even tier 8 territories, whilst they level up the enchantment rate in the zone, the guards are stronger, the sentry mage is stronger. All of that kind of stuff is almost irrelevant in a way, when there's almost no reason for 99.5% of the game to even go into your territory to begin. So whilst the territories are okay, there needs to be more value to holding the actual towers themselves, because this is another thing that kind of makes the quote-unquote slavery appealing, I suppose, is having a hideout in a zone without owning the territory itself there is fine, right? And you can be the owner of just say Everwinter Expanse, for example. And you can have a bunch of slave guilds in there, just have their hideouts down, and they would never own anything other than that hideout. But it wouldn't really change the game for them because the towers are almost worthless.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like the territories mages or the sentry mage in itself being strong and easily defendable it's somewhat okay, honestly, because I mean, like you said, it was only a handful of people. I had all of my Zerg there. Had we chosen to, go hyper aggressive and dive it, we would have killed them and then we'd have took the mage. It wouldn't have been that much of an issue. But we were just playing conservatively, and it wasn't that much of a high value target. It wasn't something that necessarily had to happen. It was just kind of trying to open up additional options for us. I don't really see a whole lot of value in the territories. I don't really see what the point in letting the mages be that way are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you should be able to interact with the mages or the guards or whatever. I don't think you should be able to heal them. I don't think you should be able to knock people away. Like, you can reset it, but being able to heal the mage is a little bit off, I feel like, especially when you can spike heal it so hard with the percentage-based healings.
I gotta agree, especially with those percentage-based healings. Seeing somebody throw a protection of nature up and then just hit it with a graveguard and it's full, that's kind of rough.
Yep, because that used to be a problem too when you were just doing normal mage raiding. When you would mage raid for like season points or whatever, people could just defend by healing the mage. They'd run up, put a pawn on it, boom, graveguard, they'd run away. And they're almost unkillable because they're a nature healer.
Mm-hmm.
And you're only raiding with like a couple, like 3 or 4 people. So being able to interact with the guards and the mages and stuff in general is bad. It's bad design and it needs to be removed. Just whenever. It's been a thing for so long already. Like,
I'm raising my hand with you on this one, Derrick. I got my hand up, okay. Bogul, you want to take a vote?
Sure. A year ago, yes.
A year ago, they should have been removed. Thank you.
Like when mages first came in, it shouldn't have been. That was how long ago that now? Like 2.5 years ago now? Long?
When they first came in to give you guys a buff during GVGs?
Oh god, that was the worst. That was before that. That was actually a revised mage mechanic. So it was in season 1, right? And that's 9 seasons ago. So I don't know, like, the territories in themselves need to be worth more,
mm-hmm.
but they need to be easier to attack. And it's not like they're hard to attack right now. They just need to be easier to attack within the prime time. And this is something that I actually brought up elsewhere on a suggestion post or something somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But you should only be able to launch attacks within the window, within the vulnerability window.
It makes that window more valuable. It recenters content into that specific time. It makes it more likely that you'll have somebody defending and attacking, therefore creating content. It spreads people out. Yeah, I'm for it. Oh, Bogul, do you have a question? Go ahead.
No, I still wanted to sort of move the conversation a little bit towards the Avalon roads again, because I'm just really curious whether or not you see any value in them, and would you consider moving there, or are you just happy enough in the big boy league Outlands, or is it just a fun play zone for like 20 people to do off-hour stuff?
So my philosophy as a leader has kind of just been to always wait and see what happens, right? So planning is not my strong point. Right? I like to wait, especially in regards to new content. I like to wait and see. I like to see what other people do, like see how other people respond to these kind of things. And because there's a lot of people out there that are smarter than I am. I don't like to presume that I'm smarter than anyone, right? So it's like, you can wait, let all the Poindexters figure everything out, and then you can just copy them. So that's kind of how I do it. But for me, I don't see value in the Avalonian roads or whatever, because we are a stronger guild, a more active guild, a larger guild. I think like in the big boy leagues, as you put it, is kind of where I want to stay. I think it might provide some additional content or possibilities for smaller guilds, but it's not something that I've like super looked into myself.
Well, I honestly think that I don't think that there's going to be a lot of content in there for you guys other than perhaps raid content. Like, it's not going to be something that you're going to go live there, or it'll be used for transport, of course, for groups. But yeah, I think that Final Order's got a much more Outland style guild than Roads, from what we know of the Roads so far. we've talked about how you have been around probably longer in the high competitive scene than anybody else, especially in the 5v5s. You've gotten to work with some of the absolutely greatest players in 5v5s that we've ever seen. Of people you are no longer playing with in that 5v5 team, who would you say was the absolute best? Who would you say was the best player who you no longer play with in that 5v5 team?
Honestly, I don't really have an answer to that. I don't think Albion is like the greatest. It's not like it doesn't have the highest skill ceiling on the planet. Obviously, with the lack of spells, etc. But I would say like a lot of like good teammates. It kind of comes down to like attitude, willingness to learn, give criticism, receive criticism, and I can have a bad attitude at times, and a lot of the people that I've worked with have also had bad attitudes. No one really stands out as being like head and shoulders above anyone else currently. Maybe if you asked me the question before, I could have thought about it a little, but off the top of my head, I can't really think of anyone.
Okay.
Some of my more successful teams involved a lot of players that I don't even consider to be good at all. I feel like they were bad with the mouse and keyboard, and the mentality was also bad.
Are you talking about Redneck Faker?
Oh, no, definitely. I'm a big fan of Redneck Faker.
Me too. That's why I was throwing him under the bus.
Okay. But a lot of guys that have been on good teams in this game are horrendous. They're brainlets and they have hooks for hands. So, I mean, you were trying to ask for like a positive response, but I don't have one. I really don't have one. Like, especially if it's people that I'm not currently playing with. Like, literally, no one's really popped.
All right. Well,
because I like people. I like playing with a lot of people. None of them stand out over the others.
Okay. No. I was thinking. There's a few that I've always been fans of. I'm a huge fan of Lissy Tank, for example. I would love to see him come back to the game. Sam always sticks out to me as always being there when you have a really strong team. Maybe not in the team, but as a really good like sixth man. Always seemed like a guy who could kind of pop in, and even Redneck Faker. Honestly, those guys.
You can say that. Nothing. Never mind.
No, I really want to hear what you have to say because, you see these guys from a much different perspective than I do. I see them from the outside and watching them play as a member of a really good team. Like, yes, it's easy to see that Cargera is special. You can see that because he can do things that, like, other people just can't do.
Cargera's a fantastic player. So the thing is, like, from the outside looking in, it's easy to be like, oh my god, these guys are so fucking good. But then when you play with people, you experience their strengths and their weaknesses that other people don't see, like communication, like potential like tilt levels, maybe they're like really stubborn. So it's like when you play with people, you form positive opinions, but you also get all the negative stuff too, which makes it like I don't consider anyone to be like a GVG god because I've played with so many people and I know, like I said, like their weaknesses, I know their strengths, their weaknesses, and yeah, it's just no one really like stands out above everyone else in this game for me.
Okay.
Because it's like, I've worked with Karg, and Karg is a fantastic player, but I've lost a lot with Karg as well as won a lot with Karg,
Yeah. I can understand that. I can see that. So let's move on to another one of my questions that I had for you. Speaking of 5v5s, because like you've been involved with them a long time, and earlier I remember we had a very short conversation about crystals, and you said early you were not a favor of switching over to crystals, but since then you've kind of been in favor of them. Am I correct?
Absolutely. I definitely prefer the CGVG system over the old system because I think ZVZs for territory ownership, despite all of the issues with ZVZ, there's a lot of kind of bad mechanics right now and a lot of downsides, as we spoke about earlier, in regards to severe outnumbering, a lot of it not even being optional for a lot of these guilds if they want to survive themselves. There's a lot of problems, but at the same time, it achieved exactly what SBI wanted it to achieve, at least on some level, because more and more people are involved. And to me, it's so much nicer than only 5 members of the guild being directly involved in the fight itself. Like, my argument always was, no, it's not only the 5 participants that are involved in the GVGs, it's the gatherers, the crafters, the logistics team, the people that help the GVGs move their sets, etc. But let's be honest, that was a load of shit. It's only those 5 people that took part. So that's just 10 times better.
Absolutely. Further on that note, I know that last season's end was kind of a letdown with 3 victors. Are you looking forward to our off-season 5v5 tournament where we get to actually find out who the best 5v5 team is?
Honestly, yes and no. Leaning more towards no, I would say, simply because we're not really dominant right now. We're doing a lot of juggling in the team. We're trying to fix some issues. We've replaced a player. We might do some more changing, and it's not because these people are bad. Not by any means. It's because we're not necessarily meshing that well together. I would say that Kagera, Bodavij, myself, and Scuzz have a more serious mindset, whereas it's hard to find a 5th that shares the same kind of mentality.
No, I can understand that. I've watched you guys participate at higher levels at a higher rate of play than anybody else. When you were doing 25 a day in the old system, nobody else was able to do that. Nobody else. And the only other person who wasn't in one of your teams who was even coming close was Skuzkabel, who was there also every day running about 15 to 20. So I can understand seeing you guys, the 4 of you on a team. I think it's good. It's got to be really hard to find somebody else who's got that drive, motivation, and just like willingness to grind it out against all odds, because you don't get good in your victories. Victories almost can make you bad. When you get 100 victories in a row, you're not getting that much better. But when you suffer 10 losses in a row and then get that 1 victory, holy shit, you've learned a lot.
Recently, with our changes, I've actually been saying prior to the fights, on stream, I don't know if you've been watching, but I actually said it several times. I really hope we get a hard team and we don't just, stomp some noobs, because we're not learning that way, and we've got a lot of learning to be doing. We need to change our compositions. We need to learn how to play with each other once again. Because to be completely transparent, my team is kind of burned out on 5s. As much as I prefer the CGVG system over the old system, with the changes this season to make even the lower levels, like the level 3 and above, significant in regards to season points, you kind of have to grind it out a lot more. Before, we were just CGVGing when we wanted or on the higher levels, because the level 3s were giving 25 season points total, and now they're giving 125, I think. So it's kind of you kind of feel like you have to do more than before.
And it's like putting, what I would say is for a guild like yours, which doesn't have 20 CGVG teams, it puts more pressure on the few that you have to do it more often and be more successful to drive up your points. Whereas you have guilds like Elevate who are running 20 CGVG teams, and that's almost impossible to keep up with.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't really have a whole lot to say in regards to any of it, honestly. It's just, for me, the CGVGs, it's easier. It's a lot easier because there is less logistics, especially when it's only one team. Or I have more than one team, but only one really consistent team, I suppose, which is my own.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it a lot easier for me, because before, most of my days were spent doing a lot of GVG related stuff. Gearing the 20 teams, and it was pugs. You had to create the pugs for the GVGs. You had to find the people that had enough alt characters to fill the GVGs. You had to gear them all appropriately. You would give them tier 8 sets, and then they would turn around and say 2 minutes for the GVG, my alt can only wear tier 6. All of that kind of stuff, it was it was absurd. It was absurdly overwhelming. And, I had some people helping me after, I did it alone for a long time. And then I had more and more people helping me towards the end, which was fantastic. But it was still ridiculous. And now I've heard that guilds like Rang and other guilds that are pulling all of these GVG teams are offering a lot of additional incentives to see GVG there. Mm-hmm. Very similar to what Money Guild did in the past. And that's not something that I'm ever going back to. Never. Nope. Just no. So these guilds currently have a lot of teams. Like, good luck to them, man. But no, that's not for me.
No, I hear it. I used to run logistics for our team, for Vendetta's GVG teams, and it was a thankless job. It was constant. It was a pain in the ass. And I was glad to get that job to somebody else. So I completely understand that. We're coming up towards about an hour here, Derrick, and I want to give you some time to just say whatever's on your mind. If you want to do some shout outs, if you want to declare war, you want to say somebody is the best GM since you could do that. Whatever you want to do, take some time to do that.
Okay. So in regards to declaring war, etc., I mean that's not really something that I'm overly interested in. So it's like we have the long-term enemies, Blue Army. Like, honestly, man, like, that's an obsession right there, yeah? That's an obsession. I mean, I've been over that for a very long time, man. But this guy, chip on his shoulder, I don't know, small man syndrome, whatever it is. All I want to do is remind everyone that when I was super motivated and hyperactive, and I got betrayed by a certain Blue Army leader, I won 2 seasons back to back. The only 2 seasons that mattered. Season 1 and 2, easy clap.
Well, I'll give you a late congratulations on 1 and 2.
But honestly, like, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of bored of like the whole Blue Army beef thing now. Like, I've been over it for a very long time, so I don't really have any war to declare. Honestly, like, if Blue Army want to keep fighting us, like, I'm down. It's content, it's fun. But man, I would love to do something else. You know what I'm saying? I would love to fight someone else for a little bit.
Well, I hear you. Do you have any shout outs to guys or gals in your guild who are really picking it up and doing work and making life in Final Order better?
I don't want to give any shout outs to individual players because I'm undoubtedly going to miss someone and it's not worth it. It's not worth it. The grief that I'm going to get is not worth it. So honestly, I just kind of want to reiterate what I said earlier and just give a shout out to literally everyone in my guild. Like I said, there's hundreds of options. There's so many easier options. It's a video game at the end of the day. Like, you can join a relaxed guild. You won't be getting inted over and over again, fighting 80 or 100 versus 300 plus every CTA. You won't be getting raged at by a Scottish underachiever every CTA. There's so many places where you guys could go, in my mind, to probably have more fun, lose less money, win more, but all of you bangers are still in Final Order, dude. And I appreciate it a lot. I'm sure Kazara appreciates it a lot too. And damn, son. Honestly, like, when I think about it, I can't believe it. I can't believe how active we've stayed throughout this entire time. With all the problems that we've faced, all the uphill battles that we've had. It's, whilst this is a merger between Team Casualty and Money Guild, we've just became our own thing, a completely different entity over time. Like, it's just great to have the support of the boys. The TC veterans, like, I get along with so many of them. There's not that many people from Money Guild left. They probably get sick of my shit over the years, but we have so many new members that I'm really, really pleased with. I love a lot of these guys. I couldn't. I mean, I could be significantly happier, but I'm just a very negative person in general. But I'm really proud of what we built up here. I'm really pleased with the people that choose to stay in Bang despite all the odds.
Well, I'm glad that you're enjoying the game right now, because it does. It sounds like you're having a good time. Honestly, it sounds like you've come to terms with what you're going to be facing on the daily. Say, that's the game I'm playing. Fuck it, I'm going in. And that's an absolutely fantastic attitude to go into it with your teammates. You guys are never afraid to lose. You're never afraid to come back again and again and again. And you always bang. And you've earned my respect over the years. I've absolutely loved watching you play in all aspects, from 5v5, ZVZs. I've liked watching the ups and downs of your guilds. You're one of the most entertaining individuals we have in this game. And I'm really glad that you're here and being part of it. You have one of the greatest streams that we have ever had, as far as getting information to players that's accurate Ask this man a question. Go on to his stream, ask him a question. He will answer it, and you're going to get the right answer if he knows it. And if he doesn't, you're not going to get a bullshit answer. He's just going to tell you, I don't fucking know. And that's great to hear from a GM. So, Derrick, thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate that, dude. Thanks very much.